snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys, I am here today to do a book review, and the book that I'm going to be reviewing is book number 1 in Sword of Shadows, which is by J.V. Jones, and this is A Cavern of Black Ice. Let me start off by saying that J.V. Jones does not get the recognition that she deserves as a writer. I had never heard of her before I found this book. I had never heard anyone talk about her writing, I'd never heard anyone praise it. The only real reason that I ended up picking up this book is because on the front cover at the bottom it actually has a quote from Robert Jordan saying, "Wonderful," and if Robert Jordan thought it was wonderful, I wanted to give it a go. Now, as I say, I literally had no idea about this book. None of the people I know had really read it, no one on BookTube had really spoken about it, no one had really said anything to me about her work, good or bad. And so I just went into this completely and utterly blind. And I'm so glad I did. This book is a 5-star book. I loved this book. And I was not expecting to love this book because I thought, you know, if I had heard of J.V. Jones, maybe I would have gone into it knowing it's going to be a really good read, and I would have gone, okay, let's see if it lives up to 5 stars. But this book shocked me right from the beginning, where we open up with a mother who is pregnant and she's struggling down a mountainside, and it's the middle of winter and she's not sure if she's going to make it before the baby comes, and it's a dark, dark night and she doesn't know where she is, she doesn't know how close she is to the city. How dramatic is that for an opening scene? That's a really, really short snippet of the beginning. Then we switch to another scene with a different character. This guy is nameless. He doesn't have a name. He doesn't even know his name because he's been in a torture chamber for so long that he can't remember it. He's being tortured. He's being... Oh, the things that happen to this guy, my goodness, it's terrifying. Her writing, let's talk about her writing. Her writing is beautiful. I have never read anyone who compares. I include Robin Hobb and Patrick Rothfuss in that statement. Her writing, in my opinion, is actually better than both of them, in terms of the prose and in terms of how wonderful it is and in terms of how gripping, captivating, beautiful it is. She is great. She's really good. This is a story which focuses on various different points of view. We have a few main characters. One of them is called Rafe, and he is from a clan. This is set in a world where there are basically 3 sort of different divisions of the land. One is the cities, the other is where the clans are, and that is like a big sheet of ice with snow and things like that. And then the third land is where the Soul live. Rafe lives in the Icelands, where his clan lives. He is a Halesman. He is from the Halesman clan. He's really close to his father and his brother. They have a very tight connection, and they've always done things together, and they've always aspired to be as good as their dad, who is a great, great leader among the tribe. He's not the leader of the whole tribe, but he's really admired by many people, and Rafe and his brother Dre both aspire to be like Tam, their father, and they have a really great brotherly bond, which you see instantly, so that's good. One day, when Rafe is out hunting with his brother, he gets this feeling he's never had before, a dark sense, like a premonition almost, that something has gone terribly, terribly wrong. Now, the 2 brothers had sneaked off, they were not supposed to be out hunting, but when Rafe gets this feeling, they know that they have to return to where their clan was, and they have to go back and see what has happened. And when they get there, complete turmoil and chaos and horror beyond horror has struck, and their clanmates are all completely and utterly dead, murdered in cold blood without any hint of struggle. And it's a mystery. They don't know what's happened, they don't know which clan has come and attacked them, and they have to head straight back to their main clan unit where they discuss what's going to happen next. And this is the start of a slippery slope for the clan. Things are going to get really wrong, things are going to go crazy. His storyline was my favourite to begin with. Rafe himself is a really caring and compassionate character. He really, really worries over the things he does. He has compassion for everyone. He wants to be a great clan member, but he's very conflicted over some of the things that happen. He has moral dilemmas that he has to overcome, and there's a lot of problems which really I would struggle with making. So a 16-year-old young boy in a clan where he's expected to follow custom and tradition and he questions it, he definitely struggles. As the story goes on and he is tested by the things he faces, he definitely becomes a harder character, more firm, more sure of his decisions, more set in stone what he's going to do, and he really begins to see the realities of a world where the clan isn't there to protect you and what happens outside of the clans in the cities and with the Soul as well. He is a really, really interesting character, and he's certainly the one whom I connected with most to begin with, because his backstory is very interesting, it's very relatable, and he has a really strong sense of belief in the stone gods and the clans and everything that they stand for, which is a really nice thing to see in a character. I did feel like the depth of knowledge within this book that I got was insane. It's quite a long read, the writing is tiny and the book is long, but it's so worth it because the detail and the backstory, the amount of research that must have gone into this is crazy. But it's so well written, and there's so much history that she's woven into this story that's so interesting. It is very similar to George R.R. Martin in the way that there's so much history going on that's kind of slowly slid into the story and you discover it as you go. I think she might even be better than George R.R. Martin in some ways, so yeah, I just enjoyed that. The other major character whose storyline we follow is Ash, and she is actually based in the cities. The city in particular that she's based in is Spire Vanis, and she lives there with her adopted father, Penthro Is. Is basically keeps her locked away a lot of the time because he fears what she is and what she's going to become. He seems to know a lot more about her than he lets on to her or anyone else, and immediately her storyline is interesting, but I didn't know if I liked her or didn't like her yet. She is kept in a very nice, luxurious room. She has pretty much everything she could ever wish for, and Is keeps her all wrapped up and happy. But of course she isn't happy with that lifestyle. She's very lonely, she lacks any companionship, and she is growing into a woman, so she wants to get out and explore things and figure out what's going on with her. She's having nightmares and she doesn't know why. She's getting worried about things that are happening to her. She hears voices and she doesn't know what's going on. As her nightmares slowly begin to intensify and she starts losing consciousness for long periods of time, her adopted father Is starts to be more intrusive with her and take more of an interest in what's going on with her rather than how she's feeling. He just kind of wants to know how she's changing and doesn't tell her why. He doesn't tell her anything about it, so she kind of becomes suspicious of him and she really wants to trust him because he's the only person she's really ever known, but she doesn't. She knows he's a hard man and he is not the sort of person to trust easily. Ash's story didn't interest me as much as Rafe's at the beginning, but as it goes on and she starts to take matters into her own hands rather than relying on other people, she really develops as a character and she definitely became one of my favourites not too far into the story. She has a really courageous streak and she has a stubborn streak to her that really starts to come out later on when she's tested by the things that are going on with her. She has to run, she has to get away from things, she has to go on a big epic quest, and her storyline is very, very interesting. I didn't like her as the young pampered lady, but as she grew into the courageous, adventurous woman, she certainly became a really strong female character, as Rafe is a really strong male character. So they balanced one another out really well. The other really important character that I spoke about a little bit already is the guy who gets tortured, the Nameless One. His story is so dark, it's so filled with agony, it's so filled with pain, it's so filled with a lack of memory, lack of being able to do anything, lack of knowing what to do, that it was darker than George R.R. Martin's seen some of them. I would say that Jones is a phenomenal writer. The way she writes scenes really captivated my attention. She gripped me, she made me want to keep reading for ages. She just was great. Her writing is so good, and I don't know how this is coming across to you guys, but it's so good. She manages to really create a world inside the reader's mind where you can vividly see everything happening before you. It's as if you're there in the room with whatever's going on, and it's disgusting and awful and terrible and beautiful and magical and everything. It's just good. The other major character is Angus Locke, who is the uncle of Rafe and Dre. He is a really steadfast but really secretive character, and we don't know a lot of his backstory. We get to see a little bit of his family life at the beginning, and he has a nice happy family, but he often travels away from them and he keeps his family completely secluded from everyone due to things from his past that we don't know about. He certainly seems to be like something more than he initially appears, because so many people who are big, powerful people are interested in his whereabouts and they want to know where he is. I feel like a lot of stuff from his past is probably going to come up in the next few books and explain a little bit more about him. But in terms of this story, he was a really great role model for both Ash and Rafe, and he was a really interesting, courageous character who looked after them both when they needed it and was there for them when they needed his help. And I really enjoyed the sort of pep talks and chats that he gave to both Rafe and Ash as the story went on. Effie is another great character who I'm really in love with. She reminds me so much of Ori from Patrick Rothfuss's Kingkiller series, if you guys have read that. She's a really, really lovable character. I instantly loved her character, and she is the younger sister of both Dre and Rafe. She isn't a very regular child. She doesn't like going out and playing with all the other kids. She actually likes to seclude herself away, and she likes to hide away in the shadows. She likes to go and sit with the dogs from the clan, and she doesn't really enjoy human interaction. She quite enjoys her own company and the dogs' company, and she doesn't like to have long chats with everyone. She doesn't like to be involved in the action. She likes to just take time away and have her own sort of story. She's a really introverted character, so a lot of people in the clan do look out for her and act as kind of family towards her, but she's also the sort of character that if she got lost, everyone wouldn't really notice until a few days had gone by, because she's frequently getting lost, she's frequently hiding away. I really loved Effie because of her quirky disposition about life. She's very, very caring, she's very loving, and she worries over lots of things that are way ahead of her. She's very, very young. She's only about 8, but she worries over things that adults would worry over. She's really clever and intelligent for her age, and she really understands a lot of things that adults who speak around her wouldn't perhaps realise she did understand. She is wise beyond her years, and she certainly ponders things that make you think, and the things that she thinks about are really interesting because of the way that they are seen through a child's eyes, but thought about in a really intelligent way. However, in this story, it's not only the reader's attention whom she grabs, she actually manages to attract the attention of some rather nasty characters within the clan, and she has to be really alert because they don't like her very much. And with both of her brothers frequently away on clan business, she is potentially in trouble. The Sull are the other sort of faction that I mentioned. The Sull are basically kind of sorcerers who we don't know very much about, and they kind of keep themselves to themselves. No one has really seen any Sull, and if you do see them, you just walk away. You don't go near them because they are strong and powerful. The magic within this book is really interesting because there are actually a few different types. Sorcery is the most obvious type, and that is linked to a sorcerer, where they draw on power and they can do various different things. With that power, they can sort of weave spells and they can craft things to help them. They can cure pain or ailments, and they can do dramatic things like parting fog and manipulating nature. So they are very powerful sorcerers. The Sull, on the other hand, seem to have their own sort of mysterious powers that aren't really explained too much in this book because we don't encounter them very much. And they seem to be the race of all of the races in this book, which really are in tune with the magic of this world. They seem to know how to manipulate it, they seem to know the history, they seem to know a lot more than everyone else in the world, and that's why they're feared. People don't want to go near them because they don't know what they will encounter. Next we have the Laws. The Laws are basically special rocks which are worn as necklaces and pendants by the clan members. Every member of the clan will get a law which will be significant to them. For example, Rafe's law is a raven, which means that he is a watcher of the dead, and that phrase is very significant to his story. Sometimes these laws reveal magical things such as an omen or a warning to their wearer, but that seems to be very specific to the wearer and it doesn't seem to be a common theme for everyone. It is believed that if you have magic within your lore, then that is linked to the old powers, but no one really knows for sure, and it's not a common thing. The old powers and magic in general is kind of frowned upon a bit within the clans, and no one really likes to discuss anything like that. Whilst the magic in this world isn't explained as such, some parts are explained, but it's not explained in detail. The presence of magic is certainly felt throughout everything that happens, and a lot of the plot is based around the magic and the things that it controls and manipulations of magic, which really leads up to some startling events, so it's interesting. Once again, just to finish this review, I have to say that Jones's writing style is amazing. I really enjoyed it. I connected instantly with her writing. It drew me in from the first page, and it captivated me with the torture scene, which is only a few pages later, like page 7 or something. And that scene alone I would give 5 stars, but the whole book is filled with wonderful writing, beautiful detail. If you like books that are detailed, this one is definitely that. But the storyline is still there, it's still prominent, it's still the main feature, and the characters are great. If you like Robert Jordan, I have no doubt you will like this, because it's very similar, except the plot and the story and the setting is all completely different, but the pacing is really similar to Jordan. The story starts off slower, but it builds and builds and builds, and the ending is really dramatic. Of course, this does have a few big action scenes at the beginning and middle as well, so that's good. I might just read you guys like a couple sentences from page 5 of this book, because it's not spoilery, but it is really good to show you the writing of Jones. He was aware only of accomplice's hands on his jaw, repositioning his head, brushing his hair to one side, and pushing his skull hard against the bench. The man with no name felt frayed rope and beeswax thrust into his left ear. Accomplice held nameless man's jaws wide, whilst Pincer thrust a third wad down his throat. The desire to vomit was sudden and overpowering. A thread of animal sinew was stretched between his thumbs, thick fingers in his mouth. Sinew was woven across his bottom teeth, binding his tongue in place. And that's just like a couple sentences. Like, she really gets into the torture scenes. They are dark, I will tell you now. So yeah, crazy stuff, but really good. The ability that she has just to instantly connect with the raw emotion and make you really imagine and vividly imagine the scene is great. And the fact that she can do that in just a few phrases and sentences is amazing. So highly recommend this series. I love this book. I think it's a really great start to the series. I believe there are supposed to be 6 books. At the moment, 4 are out. I do believe that J.V. Jones is quite a slow writer with these books, and she has been releasing them. The last book took like 5 years to come out, and the next one, we don't have a published date for it, so maybe that is why a few people haven't picked this series up. But I would still recommend it to you guys. Even as a standalone book, this was really awesome. And I want to get on with the rest of the series, so definitely next year you will see me reading this series and finding out what happens, because I loved it. Seeing as this book was a total shot in the dark, I had no idea about it. It was a 5-star read, it was fantastic. The cover is really beautiful, the whole thing is really well written, the setting is so different and unique to so many other fantasies. It's just great, and you guys should definitely pick this up. I really highly recommend it. 5 stars. Let me know if you have read any J.V. Jones, or if I have managed to convince you to go and pick her up. Please let me know that, because I would be really interested. I definitely think she deserves way more credit than she gets. So yeah, I love this story, and I would love to hear what you guys think. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all very soon in another video. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat about the